Okay, let's get right into it. A story that has absolutely shaken the British monarchy to its very core just took a turn that is, well, it's historic. We're talking about the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Now, to really wrap your head around how big a deal this is, you have to go back in time. And I mean way back. Over 375 years to the English Civil War to find anything like it. This is not just another royal headline, folks. This is a moment that will be in the history books.
So the big question is, how on earth did we get here? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down for you. We'll start with the arrest, then get into the allegations, look at the Epstein files that brought this all back to life, see how it's affecting the monarchy, and finally, we'll ask, what happens now?
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, the royal arrest. We're going to cover the basics here, the who, what, where, and when of this absolutely unprecedented event.
So picture this. It's Thursday, February 19th. It's actually his 66th birthday, and on that morning, plainclothes detectives from the Thames Valley Police show up at Wood Farm on the Sandringham Estate, and they're there for one reason, to arrest Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The charge? It's a very specific one. Suspicion of misconduct in a public office.
And you can bet the government's response came fast. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, didn't mince words. He came out and said, quote, "Nobody is above the law." And that one sentence, wow, it really set a powerful tone. It signals that this is a legal process the entire world is now going to be watching very, very closely.
Okay, so let's move on to the allegations themselves. That charge we just mentioned, misconduct in a public office, is absolutely central to this whole thing. But it's probably not a term you hear every day, right? So let's unpack exactly what it means.
Yeah, this isn't some new law. It's actually a really old common law offense. Basically, it applies when someone in a public position, like, say, a UK trade envoy, deliberately does something that amounts to a serious abuse of the public's trust. The Director of Public Prosecutions put it simply, the heart of this offense is a gross breach of trust.
So what exactly are the police looking into? Well, it boils down to two main things. First, you've got that long-standing, very serious allegation that a woman was trafficked to the UK by Jeffrey Epstein for an encounter with him. And second, there are these newer claims that he was sharing sensitive government information with Epstein back when he was a UK trade envoy.
Which brings us to our next section, the Epstein files. You know, this case had been simmering for years. So what was the catalyst that just blew it wide open? Well, it was this. The emergence of these files changed absolutely everything.
And when we talk about these files, the scale is just mind-boggling. The U.S. Department of Justice released over 3 million documents. That's not a typo. 3 million photos, emails, and papers, all tied to Jeffrey Epstein. And with all that new material out there, the pressure on British police to act became immense.
And buried inside that mountain of data, investigators found what they were looking for. Emails that seemed to show Andrew forwarding official, and even confidential, documents straight to Epstein. Just look at these two examples. In November 2010, official reports from his visits to Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Singapore. And then, get this, on Christmas Eve of that same year, a confidential brief about investing in Helmand, Afghanistan.
And it wasn't just new information. The files also started backing up old evidence. Remember that infamous photo of Andrew with Virginia Giuffre? Well, a draft statement from Ghislaine Maxwell was found, and it seems to confirm that, yes, the picture was real. That directly contradicts what he'd suggested before, that maybe it wasn't authentic.
So that brings us to the fallout for the monarchy itself. Look, the arrest was a huge shock, for sure, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. It came after a period where the consequences for him were already escalating, and fast.
Just look at this timeline. It really shows you how quickly things unraveled. October 2025, he's stripped of his Duke of York title. Just 1 month later, the king himself formally removes his HRH and prince titles. That same month, the U.S. Congress summons him for an interview. And then by February, just before the arrest, he's forced to move out of his home, the Royal Lodge.
Meanwhile, the monarchy has been creating some serious distance. Buckingham Palace put out a statement saying King Charles had profound concern about the allegations and was ready to support the police investigation. And what does that really signal? It's the institution trying to protect itself, prioritizing its own survival above all else.
All right, so finally, let's look ahead. What happens next? Because this story is far, far from over. It's a drama that's now unfolding on 2 different continents.
This has really become a battle on multiple fronts. Here in the UK, you have the active criminal investigation, and police are currently searching 2 of his properties. Then, across the pond in the US, the pressure is really building for him to cooperate with that congressional inquiry. And on top of all that, a lawyer for a second woman says they're now considering a totally separate civil lawsuit.
So it's important to understand the difference here. The UK investigation is criminal. The focus is on that misconduct in a public office charge, and they've already made an arrest. The U.S. investigation, on the other hand, is political. They want him as a witness for a congressional inquiry into Epstein's whole network. They've sent a formal request for an interview, but so far, nothing.
And all of this brings us right back to the ultimate question. You've got an active criminal probe in the UK, a congressional inquiry breathing down his neck in the US, and a monarchy that has very clearly distanced itself. The final chapter of this unbelievable royal scandal is being written right now. The only question is, what will it say?